welcome to the very first episode of HR Tech Unlocked, the podcast where we decode, demystify, and dive deep into the world of HR technology, one meaningful conversation at a time. In this episode, we will be demystifying HR digitization, digitalization, and digital transformation. It's not just a buzzword war, it's your roadmap to future ready HR. I am your host, Gurpreet Kaur, and joining me is the human Swiss Army knife of HR transformation, my co founder, strategist, and someone who's been living and breathing HR tech long before it was cool, Anuj Kathuria.
Thank you, Gurpreet, for a wonderful introduction. I am super excited to be here with you to kick off this series. I know we have been talking about doing this forever, but as they say, when the time is right, things do happen. And here we are. And let me say this, HR tech is no longer optional. It is your business's central nervous system. And in this series, we'll try to unpack that in the most simplest and the human way possible.
All right, episode one. Today, we are tackling what I call the holy trinity of HR buzzwords: digitization, digitalization, and digital transformation. They all sound the same, but they mean very different things. So, Anuj, take us into it. Why do these terms confuse people so much?
Well, that's a $1 billion question. Honestly, because they are often used interchangeably. And might I say, for that matter of fact, mostly by people who are at the C level and even in the boardroom. But I don't blame them because it's very confusing for a layman. So imagine a paper map, a GPS device, and a self driving car. They all help get you somewhere, but in very different ways. And that exactly is the difference between digitalization, and digital transformation, for that matter of fact.
Okay, I love that metaphor. Can you break each one down for us with, say, a real world HR twist?
All right, I'll try that. Let's start with HR digitization. Now, this is in its simplest format the conversion of analog to digital. For example, you're taking your physical employee files, which are on paper, and converting them to PDFs. Moving your attendance system, which used to be a physical register, to Excel. Now, that is HR digitization. It's all about data storage. All right. Uh, think of scanning a paper photo into a JPEG file or a PNG file. It's now digital, but you are still just looking at the same picture in a different format. Now, that's called HR digitization. All right. Then comes HR digitalization. Now, this is combination of two words for me, digitization plus value realization. So it is digitalization. Here, you are adding intelligence. Here, you are using digital tools to optimize HR processes. For example, when you are automating your payroll process or implementing an HR platform or launching a self-service portal, now that is typically digitalization. It is nothing but the use of digital tools to optimize and automate your HR processes, right? Simple way, it's like setting up an online photo album that automatically tags and organizes your pictures. It's not just digital, it's smarter and faster. Now, that is HR digitalization. Then comes the last part, which is my favorite, to be honest. That is HR digital transformation. Now, this is a game changer. It's all about rethinking HR from ground up using digital capabilities. This is where HR becomes a strategic business partner where technology enhances culture, empowers decision making, and transforms the most important element, which is employee experience, right? So, for example, building an end to end HR ecosystem, now, which includes AI driven recruitment, personalized learning journey maps, predictive analytics for attrition, real time dashboards for leadership. From an HR standpoint, all this will encompass and transcend into what you call as HR digital transformation. And taking the same photo example further, in case of digital transformation, this is like creating a personalized digital photo studio where your images or photos are not just stored or organized or tagged, but they are enhanced using AI, shared in real time, and they contribute to bigger creative projects. I hope I answered your question.
Yes. And I think that's the power of getting it right and knowing where on the maturity curve you are. But help me understand, why should CHROs, HR heads, or even small business owners care about this nuance?
Well, let me try and answer that with an anecdote, which in fact is a real story. A couple of years ago, during one of my consulting assignments, I came across a large manufacturing firm. Their HR team had digitized most of their processes, attendance via biometrics, payslips going via emails. However, even after doing all this, the attrition was high, morale was low, and the business saw HR move as a back office operator and a cost center. And during this conversation with their CHRO, I got to know that they tried everything, but nothing worked. And then when I met the business, they had a very different story to tell. From their standpoint, whatever the HR did was just, like I said, digitization, conversion of processes from manual to systemic or digitized. But did it really help the business? The answer is no. And I was asked to advise on that project. And after having a number of conversations with the HR, with the CIO, and with the business, I understood the key problem. They did this as part of FOMO, the fear of missing out, because their competitors were bringing in HR systems. They also thought, let us also walk the same bandwagon, without realizing that they did not have outcomes charted out. What did they really want out of that journey? Why were we doing this? And where were they on that path? They had no clarity. And through a large, robust intervention, we were able to then co create a digital transformation strategy for them that included a talent marketplace to foster mobility, which was one of their business's main outcomes. AI-led feedback analysis for exit interviews, which gave a lot of inputs and insights into where challenges lie within the spectrum of hire to retire. And when I say hire to retire, I'm talking from the standpoint someone is a potential candidate till the time he or she becomes an alum of the organization. There are about 250 touch points, which either become moment of misery or become moment of magic, depending on the kind of experience the organization provisions. So we were able to correct that. And most importantly, there were digital dashboards that showed real time people matrix to business leaders so they could take decisions, which is based on hardcore data than gut feel. The result? Turnover dropped by approximately 15%. The internal hiring went up by 3x. And the CEO said, I finally see HR as a growth engine. So, to your question as to why should CHROs or HR heads or business owners care about this nuance? Because you can't build the future if you don't know where you are today. And if you don't ride this tsunami, you'll be left behind. In a few years or months, you would become what we today call as primates. Imagine People saying, we want HR digital transformation. But hello, all your data is still in silos, not talking to each other, in spreadsheets, in paper files. It's like trying to build a smart city on a paper map, building castles in the air. Nothing's going to happen. Each stage, digitalization, or transformation has its own specific tools, talent, KPIs, and risks. And that decides your investment strategy, your change management approach, which stage you are on. So it's high time the key stakeholders start understanding the key imperative of digital transformation and walk this path, else they'll be left behind. That's what I would like to contribute to this question.
That was wonderfully explained. But let's bust some myths now. What are the biggest misconceptions that you see?
Well, that's like a Pandora's box of troubles, if you really ask me. I know the less you open, the less you get hurt. But then there are three which I think almost everyone has seen or experienced, whosoever has walked on this path. My top three. When people say we have implemented an HRMS or a HR platform, so we have walked the path of digital transformation and we are transformed. Really? Is it impacting your business results? Are your HR KPIs linked with your business KPIs? Is your employee experience one of the best in the industry? If not, I'm sorry, you're living in dreams. What you've done is digitization, and for that matter of fact, a bit of digitalization. That's all you've done. Number two, people thinking that transformation means only technology. I'm sorry. Transformation is cultural and not just technical. Tech acts as an enabler. It's a PPT framework I like to call people, process, technology, which typically talks about people capability, process re-engineering, and technology augmentation. When you do all these three, that's when you walk on the path of transformation. With any of these missing, I'm sorry, you have not hit the bullseye. And last piece, when people say we'll do everything in one go, I'm sorry, it's a journey. You don't become future ready overnight. It's a layered evolution. So there we go with my top three myths, which I have tried to bust and explain to my clients and the organizations where I have worked at.
Great. So, Anuj, for our listeners who want to reflect, is there a simple framework they can use?
Well, they are dime a dozen, if you really ask me in today's time and age. But something that's really worked for me is a 5-pointer questionnaire. Number one, why do you want to walk this path? In terms of what's your outcome? What are your expectations? In terms of business expectations, other key stakeholder expectations. Why do you want to do this? Once you've answered the why, the next question you need to ask and answer is where and how is your data? When I say where and how, is your data on paper? Is it in Excel files on your computers? Or is it on your cloud? Does your data speak to each other? So many organizations have those psychometric assessments when you join. Where does the data go? Does it speak to your learning data? Does it speak to your talent data? Your succession planning data? Does it speak to your talent acquisition data? You need to figure those things out. Number three is how are decisions made in your organization? Basis gut feel, basis certain data and reports, which are more historic, or based on predictive analytics? Answer this question. What's your role today if you are in HR? I'm not talking about job description. I'm not talking about what you do. Plain simple. Are you an administrator? Are you an enabler or are you a strategist? Look around you. What does the HR team do? Act as an enabler or admin or strategist. And then, most important piece, when you know the why, you know the how, what do you want to kickstart with? What's your burning piece in the organization? What's that one biggest imperative? Once you answer these questions, they'll tell you where you are on the journey and why should you walk it. And here's a pro tip. I have failed many a times only to realize transformation does not start with technology. It starts with us asking and answering these key questions about why, how, and what. If you have not done these, no matter how many dollars you spend, no matter how much talented people you get in the organization, your digital transformation journey will never be successful. There we go.
That was very informative. And I think it's time to do a quick recap. So, digitization, if we have to say, it means going paperless. Digitalization, automating the processes.
Mhm.
Digital transformation would mean rethinking HR through a digital human first lens. And of course, the journey is layered and not linear.
Well, that's hitting the nail on its head. And the operating word over here is rethinking HR through a digital, human first lens. Technology can augment, but remember, you're dealing with humans. The future of
Mm,
HR is not just about being digital, it's about being digitally human.
right. So, folks, if you are wondering where your organization stands today, we have created a quick HR Tech Maturity self assessment tool. Visit on www.ascendara.org for expert consulting on HR digitalization and more. Let's shape the future of work together. Or you could alternately drop us a message on LinkedIn. Like, share, and subscribe. And send this episode to someone who's still stuck in the 2005 HR systems.
Also, we are curating a digital HR playbook with insights and use cases. Insights, not only the positives, but even moments of failures. So, subscribe, stay in the loop.
Next episode, we'll go deeper into how to craft a future ready HR digitization strategy, one that's lean, practical, and future proof. This is HR Tech Unplugged, where transformation meets conversation. I am Gurpreet, signing off until next time. Stay digital, stay human. Thank you.
Thank you.